All right, we're back with another edition. Slow, not a whole lot going on. Dead of January, you're in the off season, but there are some housekeeping things that we missed and/or have transpired before we recorded. Um, so let's get into that first. Remember to like, subscribe, comment. We need subscription to keep going up. Uh, so like us, follow us on all social media and on YouTube at Terminus Sports _ ATL on all social media platforms. TikTok, not banned. We're back. And then also remember, subscribe. I don't know how many times I say subscribe. Maybe if I say it more and more, people will do it. But it's appreciate people that have subscribed.
Yeah.
All right. The first big thing, I guess, is Dan Jackson. He's going to the NFL. That wasn't a big surprise. I didn't even know that he had eligibility left. Did
I didn't
you?
either. I thought he was out of eligibility.
I guess not.
Damn good dog, though. Wish
Yeah.
him well.
Yeah. And then the biggest news, it happened on, was that Tuesday? Trevor Etienne, not coming back to Georgia. It was pretty much thought that he was going to stay for another year. He was injured most of the year. Didn't get a whole lot of snaps that we all thought he would. But he's going on to the NFL, which leaves Georgia's running back room kind of not a very good place, but it's not.
Then with guys that have playing time, and then you got Robinson coming in off an injury, right, on a knee, and
Both Robinsons.
Yeah, well, one was a turf toe, right?
Yeah.
But it takes a while. I know a little bit more about knees. It takes a while for you really to start trusting that, and I can only imagine a running back is even more so. So anyway, yeah, I would agree. Running back room is thin on people who have meaningful playing time.
Yeah, and I guess I don't really understand Etienne's move. Maybe, I don't know. With running backs' life shelves, maybe he thought now would be the best time to strike. I don't know. I didn't think it was really.
Well, I can offer perhaps one or a couple of factors in it. I'm sure that there was NIL money discussed with Georgia. Then they probably gave him or either Georgia did, or people working on the behalf of Etienne. I'm sure his brother has an agent. Said, well, here's your projected, where you'd go to the NFL. He did the math and thought it would be better to go to the NFL. So that could be that. I mean, that's one of the things now when we're evaluating these people's decisions and stuff like that, we've got to keep in mind this is now, this is professional, and you might as well get used to it.
Yeah, and so now you got Frazier, who I think we all, we think he's going to be pretty good. You also have Dwight Phillips Jr., who had one package play. He's got elite speed. Don't know anything other than an end around run.
Yeah.
But, a talented guy. Chauncey Bowens, who I think is really good. Got playing time against Tennessee, got playing time against UMass. I think he got in there against Tech. I don't know if he had any touches. I'm not 100% sure on that. Didn't play at all against Notre Dame. And then you got the Robinson, not brothers, but I like to think of them as brothers from another mother. Roderick Robinson and then Branson. Yeah. Roderick's really good, I think, but again, his career has been mired in injury from his freshman and sophomore year.
I don't mean to step on you, but Georgia, when they've had they've been able to have a duo of running backs, and you need I know it's a cliche, but you need a thunder and a lightning. And I think Broderick, I think he weighs like 240, 245 pounds.
Right.
he could be that guy. And I keep hoping, and I think he has the talent to. He's just got to stay healthy. But at any rate.
And then let's see. Am I missing you? No. Cash Jones is coming back, which gives some, options. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you have an incoming freshman who I like a lot, but again, Kirby doesn't like to play freshmen early on in the season. Bo Walker, you watched some of his tape. I've watched some. I think he's really talented. Think the guy's going to be good. But again, you had to be a pretty special back at Georgia to get playing time as a freshman.
You do. Yeah, Bo Walker. People that don't know him, go check him out. I think he's like 5'8", 5'9" at the most, and like 220 pounds or something like that. So he's explosive, has great balance. So how can you not like somebody named Bo Walker? So it should be interesting. But you're right. You got to be really special to see playing time with Kirby as a freshman running back.
And I think Nate Frazier can be that guy. I mean, to me, he has looked the best. Yeah, I at some points I think he's looked better than ETN.
He hits the hole harder.
Yes, he hits the hole harder. He can. I thought he did a better job reading the holes than ETN did. But has fumbleitis. But Sonny Michel did too. His first year at Georgia. So he had fumbleitis in the Rose Bowl. So, it happens, but, that can work out. I think Georgia should be fine, is my point, even though you don't have a proven commodity, really. They have a ton of talent, which is going to probably be the theme of 2025.
So I know we talked about this a little bit off camera, but it seems to be with the if you go back and look at the NIL or the transfer, Georgia seemed to. So we talked about the running back room. Georgia seemed to have really focused on the wide receiver room as well, and got the guy from USC, and then got the guy from Texas A&M. I know you know their names more than I do, but I have seen highlight film. But that was one position group that needed to be elevated, quite honestly. Hopefully, these guys can stay healthy and stay out of trouble with the law and other things. So they're on the team, and hopefully they can catch. So, but that's where a lot of our money went in transfer.
Yeah. So we got Zachariah Branch last time we recorded. The Branch brothers, Zion and Zachariah. I think Zachariah is like a Dylan Bell, can get open in tight spaces. Or not Dylan Bell, I'm sorry. Dominic Lovett can get open in tight spaces, has a little bit more explosiveness. He's going to play that slot type receiver. I think it adds the extra explosiveness to Georgia's offense. You're also going to see Dylan Bell in there at slot. I think now with Noah Thomas, who is a huge, he's like 6'6" and is a track star. He can run like a gazelle. If you saw the highlight against Auburn when A&M played him this year, quick. I mean, I think he ran a dig route and then took off. No one could catch him. So obviously he has speed, red zone threat. Still don't know anything about Colby Young, whether he's returning or not. I have no idea. And then you still have London Humphreys, who I think is going to be really good. I think it's, he started playing football his sophomore or junior year of high school. So he's still got a ton of time to develop. So I think this wide receiver, and then you also got to think Taylon Taylor's coming in, CJ Wiley, who we both, we got to see a lot of. And then Peyton, not Peyton. Wow, that's pretty bad. Those are real people that know Peyton Barber, but Ethan Barbour, wouldn't you say he's more of like an H-back type? Like he's going to play tight end, receiver,
Yeah, you can or he was in high school. You could split him out and use him as a receiver. I think he's aggressive enough, and I based on what I saw in high school, the want to is there to be. I think he's a willing blocker,
Yeah.
or will be,
Yeah.
and that's the other thing too. Give a lot of credit to the tight ends coach, whose my name is escaping me, but
Hartley.
when he first came in, Lawson Lucky he was overmatched, but he's a pretty good blocker.
Yeah.
And Georgia and Kirby he likes to have big guys on the end blocking. I know, so I think he can do that and be that type. Is he going to be the type that is a Warner from years ago where he was that good of a blocker? No, but he'll be a willing blocker, great hands, fast. So he's going to be I think he's a very good tight end.
And I think you're going to see. I think you're going to see a lot of guys that are young play next year in 2025. Also, remember that Georgia not only has Taylon Taylor coming in, who's he's the first 5-star we've gotten since George Pickens. CJ Wiley's a borderline 5-star. I think he should have been. I think he's really good. And then that kid from Langston Hughes, who we saw play against Milton in the state championship. Wide receiver. His name's escaping me. He's got tons of speed. So, I think offensively, I think they're going to be fine. I think the offensive line obviously is the biggest question going in. But again, ton of talent. Well, I mean, we think Monroe Freeling's good. Ernest Green regressed, but again, should be good. And then Bobo, we saw him start. I mean, I think he's good enough to start in the SEC. It really comes down to who's playing guard. And I think Calhoun, I have high hopes on. I don't know if Daniels is going to play at guard. I think he's more of a tackle, but we'll see what happens. I think Georgia should be fine given the recruiting that they've done in 23 and 24.
But I will tell you, you hit on something. Our offense will be as good as our offensive line. And
we saw this year.
We've talked about it. That was along with the wide receivers, but whether it was because of injury or whether it was because of and there was a lot of injuries. And that those guys get beat up there. But we had a ton of injuries. But in my opinion, we've witnessed some regression. And I don't know, used to Georgia's, just keep chopping, run the ball. I think that's going to have to be more of this offensive style. And I don't know if we've got the horses. I just don't know. And I also don't know, just being honest, if we've got the coach. And I know that we were going to talk about it, and I don't want to get too far ahead, but I'm thinking there's going to be some changes after the national championship game tomorrow. And it's going to be on the offensive side of the ball in terms of coaching. That's my anticipation. I think Kirby is in a difficult position, but if we all look at this objectively, the offense has underperformed. And if you look at even going back the year before last, when we still had Bowers and Ladd McConkey, even though they were injured a lot of that season, think of how many games they bailed us out of,
Yeah.
And so if Georgia wants to get on top of the mountain again, in my opinion, I trust Kirby and the defensive staff and how he recruits and all of that, but we've got to fix the offensive side of the ball, and we've got to get better. And I haven't seen our offensive line get better and that's just one area. I haven't seen our wide receivers get better, quite honestly. Now, is that coaching? I don't know. I doubt Kirby's. You and I have talked about it. I doubt Kirby's going to make a change with Coley because he's such a good recruiter.
Yeah.
And drops, what are you going to – I mean, you can't really coach
That's a disease. That's a contagion. It happens.
Well, I don't know if he's going to make a switch there, but the bottom line is I would anticipate, and I know there's been some rumors that we're probably going to highlight, but I would anticipate Kirby cannot, when he looks at this objectively, be happy with how the offense has performed over the last couple of years.
So, I mean, let's just talk about it. So, I guess that was Friday news dump by Buck Bellew. Buck dropped the whopper on the Georgia fan base on his 30-minute radio show. That's an hour, but whatever. So he said that Bobo's going to step down because of health reasons and that Buster Faulkner wasn't going to take the job. Yada, yada, yada. Now, there's been reports. Even one reporter said he saw Mike Bobo at a cookout saying, "Don't believe the rumors," eating a milkshake. Don't know how true that is, but it was funny. Saying that Bobo's still on staff. This isn't true. Then Buck, being Buck, went on Twitter and said, "Man, I hope the rumors aren't true about Mike Bobo and his health. Damn good dog." But here, and it is kind of like Stetson Bennett in 2060 having his own podcast or radio, whatever would be the equivalent in 2060, saying, "I've heard that the offensive coordinator for Georgia stepping down." It's really weird and wild. And I would tend to believe someone like Buck in that instance. I don't know. We don't.
Here's another David Pollock. He wasn't that specific. I think he was. All he said was he expected, or he had heard. I don't know which one it was, and there is a difference there. That there was going to be some changes at the Georgia coaching staff. Am I encapsulating basically what David Pollock said?
Yeah, that's exactly
so
what.
There's another source that has to be close to the program. Now, are they right? Shoot, I don't have any idea, but I do know that Bobo's. That's one of the reasons I think he took some of the season, if not all. I think he took part of the season off when he was at Colorado State. So he has had some health issues. I don't know. I do appreciate, and I mean this sincerely, what Mike Bobo has meant to this program, and both as a player and as a coach. And I mean that sincerely. But, again, looking at it objectively, we had a Heisman potential or talked about candidate at quarterback. I believe Bobo built his offense around that. I don't believe we were good enough on the offensive line. I think we were quarterback-centric this entire year.
Yeah.
And we were predictable in a lot of ways. And so, for me, it just isn't good enough if we are going to say we've got a standard. Now, do I think Bobo can coach? I think he can coach and be a good coach. But does he – at this stage in his career, does he really have it in him? And is he going to be open to bringing in somebody that can maybe ignite a fire or do some things and give him some different ideas? I don't know. Him and Munkin worked really well together. You know what I mean? Munkin gave him a lot of credit. And I know Bobo is a good coach, but there's something that's been missing over the last couple of years with this offense and the mentality of Georgia to some extent from what we –
well, I mean, I don't know. I was it Carson Beck?
I don't know. I'm not. I don't know. I think Carson Beck's a talented quarterback. I really do. So I can't blame it on him. I don't know what it is. I don't know. But would you agree with that?
Yeah, that someone's been missing. Absolutely.
There's been a killer instinct that hasn't quite been there, ready to play from the time the whistle blows. Now, don't get me wrong, that this past year's team had tenacity. They never gave up. They kept playing. So I'm not all negative Nancy here, but I think it is that explosiveness, that fun to watch. I talked about it. Watching this offense was like, oh my, it was painful to watch this team play. It really was. So I hope there's some I hope there's some changes, whether that means bringing in new people or rejuvenating what we got. I don't know, but there needs to be some life breathed back into the offense.
Well, yeah, and we need playmakers. That was another thing that was missing from this year's offense. I mean, and I think that was the thing that we talked about early. I mean, before the season started, who's going to be the playmakers? You have tons of guys that can, formationally, you can do a lot of things with, but who's going to be your go-to guy? Who's going to make those plays? And Georgia didn't have that really anyway. We thought it'd be ETN.
I will say, I agree with everything you just said. Well, how can you not? But I would say, like you were talking about formationally, scheme-wise, that's kind of – there's nothing came easy to Georgia's offense. Very rarely did you see, people open, wide ass open like you used to under Munkin. I don't know. I think we got to get a little bit – I think we got be a little bit more creative, and it's up to the wide receivers to have the skill set to get separation. All that comes into play. All that does.
Right. There's a lot to talk about with the offense in 2025. There's a lot to talk about with the defense in 2025. I do want to add before we get to the next segment, whatever topic, whatever. There's a lot of Georgia fans right now who are saying, "Oh, well, Bobo, Kirby, he's not getting rid of Bobo. Searles needs to be gone." And I've seen a lot of Georgia podcasts that are on this website say, "Well, there isn't going to be any moves." Can anyone point to me a major college football coaching hire this cycle other than Bill Belichick?
No, but I would say no, I can't. But I would also say it's going to get serious right after this.
Well, that's my point. I don't think you're going to see a lot of movements with coaches until the season's over and when the portal's completely over.
Yeah.
The portal's not really over until Notre Dame and Ohio State, and it hits 000 in the national championship. So we have no idea where this is all going to go and what's going to happen. Does Bobo stay or not? I don't know. I'm willing to at least, and I know I said it after the game against Notre Dame, and it's emotional, but I'm willing to give Bobo one more year. I think he's earned that enough to, and Kirby
That's
definitely
Kirby's decision. I think for sure Bobo's earned it.
Bobo and Kirby both have earned that much. Searles, on the other hand, that's whenever I'm going to be, really dogging on the rest of the season, of 2025 at least, if there isn't a move there. I mean, there's got to be a move. Either that or that offensive line better look like fucking the 5 best offensive linemen you've ever seen coming in the next season.
I've already said how I feel. I think we've got to get somebody else in there. I think we got to get somebody else in there that's a better recruiter. I know we can't duplicate Sam Pittman. He's still at Arkansas, but and somebody that can put, and I mean this with the pun intended, put some dog back into those guys and have a certain. You and I both know there are skills. There is no doubt with offensive line. Most people that don't, really know football don't really understand that, but you got to be really skilled at offensive line, no doubt. Yeah. But you can also have some guys that are a little bit nasty, maulers, that really, if you're going to run the ball and have a quarterback that can run it, and I'm not saying that's going to be Georgia's offense, I think it will be more of it, then you better have some dogs in there that just want it. And that's a big part of it. And I haven't seen that. But again, people have been injured. But when I look at Green and I see the regression, and then I just have not been impressed by Sears. And I think, I know he's been here before and has ties with Bobo, but I'm 100% in agreement with you. I want to move on from.
Yeah. And let's be totally transparent here. Searles, with the offensive line that he had the years that he was here, they underachieved.
Yeah.
So, and I know there's a guy that's watching this right now who was on that offensive line. The first stint the Searles was here, and he would disagree with me. And maybe a lot of things I learned about offensive line are maybe from Stacey Searles. But I'm just saying, go look at the NFL talent. I would say they underachieved. Go back and look at a 2008 Georgia offensive line, the starting lineup. Just go look, and then see how many NFL starters they had on that offensive line.
Well, I just know anybody looking at it over the last couple of years, I think that you can make all kinds of excuses, but the bottom line is, as Munkin said, this is a bottom line business. They've underachieved. So to me, it needs to be addressed if we're going to win championships around here.
Yeah. All right. Off of that subject, now into something. This is crazy. The first time ever on this channel, we're going to talk about it. Georgia basketball. Yes, Georgia has a basketball team, and they're actually pretty good.
Yes.
It's shocking. The job that Mike White's done from 2022, whenever he got hired, has been. I'm pretty sure he's done a great job turning this program around. I mean, my last year at Georgia, they only won 2 games.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
No. I was just going to say I'm a lot older than you are, and outside of '84, and then the year that we won, and the year that we won when the tornado hit, we won the Southeastern Conference. There's been very few highlights of University of Georgia basketball, and I do believe Mike White deserves a ton of credit for changing that around and changing that cultural around and the expectation. So good for him, and good.
Yeah, and credit to him also, because I started seeing it more because whenever I used to go to a lot of Georgia basketball games, one, because they were free and there was not a lot to do on campus in the dead of winter. And I would just go, and I would be one of the very few people in the students. I mean, I would have a whole row to myself, sometimes 4 or 5 rows to myself, watching a really bad product. And it was terrible. And what he has done, not only what Josh Brooks has done, and what Mike White has done to get engagement from the student section and the students has been great. And now you're seeing it with people coming up here on Saturdays in the dead of winter and bad weather to come watch Georgia play and pack the Stag. It is really impressive. So tip of the cap to them. I think it's a job well done.
And I know if you're like me, and you're a Georgia fan, you probably may not have really started paying attention. But just so you know, they're ranked number 23. They beat number 17. Well, maybe not, but they're right on that in the top 25. They beat Oklahoma, that was ranked number 17. They took Auburn and had a chance to tie it up with.
Won the game.
Well, yeah, they did. Anyway, they are for real. I would be shocked if they don't make the tournament. Now, with that said, the SEC is a they got. Oh, by the way, they got any number 1 recruit, freshman.
He's one of the top 5 recruits. Asa Newell, who's really good.
But they got some other Asa Newell. But they've got some other good players. But I would be shocked if they're not in the tournament. But the SEC's tough, man.
Yeah. So Georgia, we buried the lead. Georgia beat Kentucky in basketball, which historically, I mean, that's unbelievable. I know it was at the Stag, but at home. But it's an unbelievable win. I mean, how many times I can count a handful of times that Georgia has beaten Kentucky in basketball in my lifetime. So it's rare. And then Tennessee, who was number 1, but they lost to Vanderbilt. So, but anyway, one of the top teams in the country, got our doors blown off, but kept it relatively competitive throughout the game. And then Auburn, who is the number 1 team, who has been the SEC power, I would say the past 5-6 years. Georgia took them to the wire. Should have won the game, honestly, if without the turnovers, as many turnovers, Georgia would have won that game. So, look, this schedule is really hard. Like you said, the SEC, I mean, think about it. You got Alabama, Auburn, Kentucky, A&M, Mississippi State, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Vanderbilt's competitive. Florida's, pretty good. South Carolina's a bottom feeder, but Arkansas has Coach Calipari, and that's who Georgia plays next. This is a hard league. I don't, you're not going to have a really clean record in this league, but I don't know how, if you're a ranked team, I don't know how you get left out of the dance. So I think Georgia's going to be good. Here's the other thing. Georgia's got Newell, who we talked about, Silas Demery Jr., who's really good. The center who's escaping.
Cyril.
Yeah. Cyril, yeah. Blue Kane, who's a good, sharpshooter. I think this team has a lot of talent. I think they can win. And really, I guess from a Georgia, perspective at this point in the building of the program, you want them to be competitive and you want to have a shot at making March Madness, and I think that's what seems to happen. I don't know.
No, I agree, and it's good to have when we had a disappointing season, football season, let's face it, that's what it was. It's nice to have something to be able to turn on occasionally, basketball, and have a rooting interest. So I wish them well. At least the games I've watched, they've been entertaining, and I think they are a pretty good team. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. And, I also really do enjoy all the other SEC fan bases getting off on copium, trying to, trash talk about SEC basketball. Look, we all know that really deep down inside, you much rather beat us in football, and you can't. So you got to play basketball. And now we're getting good at that. So that sucks. I really hate that for y'all. But Auburn fans, I mean, oh my God, the cope with them talking trash about basketball. It's really sad. It's really sad. Same thing with Alabama, too. You'd think Alabama would care, a little less, but they got to act like, they're a basketball school. And then Tennessee, the everything school, the school that's never won a national championship in anything other than football, the everything school. Well, I guess baseball. But anyway, the everything school, who haven't won anything, they're really excited. So good for them. I'm glad the Hillbillies got something to watch while they're on top of the mountain there getting snowed on. But basketball's exciting. We'll see what happens. We'll keep talking about it. I don't know how much of a recap you want to give on a weekly basis.
I'm not I know a little bit about basketball, but not enough to even feel like I would have. I'm not the right guy to get your basketball analysis from. We'll give you high level info if it's warranted.
I can give enough. I know a little bit enough. So, but anyway, Georgia basketball pretty good. Georgia football, it could be better. So we'll keep you updated. I guess we'll go once a week unless things. Obviously, if there's emergency videos like coaches getting fired or coaches leaving. And then what happens? So, I think about
once a week is probably enough.
Yeah, probably enough for right now until we get into spring football. All right. So remember, like, subscribe, comment, give us some ideas. Obviously, we're in the dead of winter, so we got to come up with ideas. Give us some ideas that you want to hear us talk about. Remember, subscribe, and then all social media platforms at Terminus Sports _ATL. We're there. Our presenting sponsors, Unishippers, give us a pitch.
Work with small to medium-sized businesses that are looking to reduce their shipping costs. Anything from envelope all the way up to a full truck. We really excel in the small pack, think sort of UPS. And then on the bigger items, less than truckload with the Old Dominions and the Saez, we can also help you there as well. So feel free to reach out and ask for Holland Martin, and we'll do a no obligation cost analysis for you.
All right, shout out Holland. Also, shout out Notre Dame 9.5. I would take that. I think Notre Dame. I'm pulling for them to win the national championship. I think they're going to win.
As hard as that is, I am as well because I hate Ohio State, and I don't like Notre Dame much better, but I do a little bit. So
I can get into them more over Ohio State or any of the other schools.
Plus, they beat us, so you'd like to see the team that beat us end up winning it.
Yeah. So 9.5. That's a lot. That's a ton. Anyway, all right. See you on the other side.
All right. See you.